Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at Isaiah chapter 65 and 66. And what we see in these chapters are two different paths for humanity. The first path we see is the person who has chosen to disobey God, live a life of rebellion against Him, and what we find is that their end is eventually destruction, death, and eternal damnation. And for a good part of this, we see that it's describing Israel and how they have chosen to disobey God and not walk in His commandments. But it's also just all of humanity in general for those who have chosen not to walk in obedience to the Lord's commands. But then we see the second half of this, the second path, which is the person who is able to walk in restoration with God. And this is the person who, as Isaiah 66 verse 2 tells us, is the person who has a broken spirit, a humble heart, and has a reverence for the word of the Lord. And it's this person that finds a renewed spirit and restoration and walks in the blessings that God has for those who turn to Him. And ultimately, what we also see here is that this work of restoration that God does in the human heart and restoring their spirit so that they can live in obedience toward Him, that it doesn't just stop with the person. He also promises a new heavens and a new earth. And what this shows us is that God is touching not just humans in the spiritual, but also every part of creation and reversing the curse of sin that happened in Genesis chapter 3. And so that's ultimately what we see here in the closing chapters of Isaiah, is that God is reversing the curse of sin. And so it's not just touching man, which is where it begins, but it's also going to eventually end in every bit of creation being touched. And so that's what our main takeaway here is, that we have those two outcomes, but we have to decide which one we want to be, which part of it we want to be a part of. Do we want to be the one that faces eternal damnation because we've chosen not to walk in obedience to the Lord? Or are we going to be that person who walks in obedience to the Lord, turns to Him, has a broken spirit, and has a reverence for Him and worships Him with our lives? Really, the choice is ours, and that is what God calls us to. And that's all I got for now. Until next time, grace and peace.